What's up? It's Way Up with Angela Yee, and this is going to be a good conversation today, man. We got some legends here. Willie Colon is here from the Bronx.
Yes, born and raised.
Born and raised
South
in the Bronx. Okay,
you
sorry.
Say,
Let me get it
South
right.
Bronx. Yeah. They try to switch up on us.
And Aikisha Holly Colon is here too. Yes. Thank you guys for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
And I have to say, I read this entire book, could not put it down. Love how y'all both gave your very honest and transparent sides of the story, talking about this whole journey from, just wanting to have a family, wanting to have children. Faith and Fertility is the name of the book. And we're going to get into all of that. But first, we were just having a conversation off the air. And this is a conversation I just had up here with Coach Jesse. We were talking about menopause and perimenopause.
Yes. I told you, I wrote this, Faith and Fertility. Now I'm going from fertility to flashes. Because
that's the next book.
Yes. I'm telling you, it has been a journey. Now, this was a journey, but where I am now with toddlers, I'm 48 years old. I had my daughter, had my son at 42, my daughter at 43. I got to 44. I started feeling like myself. I'm like, okay, I'm getting my body back. I'm getting my mind back. Into 44, going into 45. I was like, wait a minute. I feel hot sometimes. I'm like, babe, are you hot? Are you feeling this? We're at night.
Oh, Lord.
He wants to get a little close. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
And mind you, I have babies on the breast, but my mind was getting foggy. Everybody's like, oh, well, you have pregnancy brain, and then it may be postpartum. But I knew something was not right with me.
Man, listen, you've been through so much.
Oh, girl. Listen, but God is good.
Yeah.
God is so good.
God is so good.
And so good.
We are going to talk about that today for sure. But I just think it is an important conversation. You know who else I had up here recently? Padma Lakshmi. And she was also talking about what she was going through with her endometriosis.
Yes.
And she was saying how she was married and she just did not feel like, she didn't feel sexual.
No.
And sometimes the person you're with could take that away. But women's bodies are so complicated, so much going on, and it's not easy for either party.
And it's like, I will give him credit. In the beginning, he did not understand. And we were going back and forth, and I had to tell him, I'm like, babe, you know how sexually attracted we have been to each other. You know how we used to get down and what we do. So if I'm telling you, because I had to let him know it had nothing to do with him.
Right.
And they don't understand that. I really did not feel myself. I felt fat. I was feeling hot. I was having heart palpitations. My body was aching and hurting, and I couldn't help him. I couldn't make him understand.
Well, I think for a lot of fellas like myself, we kind of have a mind over matter process where we try to say, hey, man, just get through it. But when it's time for sexy time, you got to be into it. You got to be committed. And looking at my wife at times, she would be like, all right, I guess. And that doesn't make us feel sexy. It doesn't make us feel wanted. So I've grown.
Hurry up, get it over with.
Yeah. 100%. She's like, come on, Willie. Come on, get it over with, Willie. Come on. And seriously. And so it came down to a lot of me having some type of like attitude and me like, why even bother if this is how we're going to be? And I didn't grow up. My mom didn't talk about menopause. My sister didn't talk about menopause. Women in my family never talked about menopause. So I didn't have any data on what it is. And so my wife is my first experience. And when you're a guy who you're used to getting what you want in that avenue.
When he wants it.
When you want it, and it's kind of denied. And it is denied. And then, we have kids, so kids are the first priority. And so you start feeling like, man, am I getting pushed out the house? I'm already getting pushed out of my own bed.
They say men can be jealous of their kids sometimes and feel crazy about that.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I witness that on a daily basis. Me and my wife, one of our arguments is that she won't kick our kids out the bed. Like my son and my daughter can sleep like perfectly, angels in the night, and somehow 2 o'clock in the morning they're in my bed. I got a foot in my back.
You're like, we got this beautiful house,
everything, and they literally be sleeping on top of me. I'm like, wife, this is your job. Kick them out the bed. I have to get up for work.
In my defense, and you've read this book, and what a lot of people don't talk about after we went through all of this is the PTSD that we go through after we finally get what we've been praying for, which are our children. And so I have a lot. I'm dealing with it in therapy, and here in life is I don't sleep well and I'm not comfortable if they're not with me.
Right.
Because I had so much loss.
You had 8 miscarriages.
I had 8 miscarriages.
For people that are listening, 8 miscarriages.
Yes.
And went through so much with your body to even get pregnant each time. And I'm going to tell you, when I was reading this book, every time I was like, okay, this is it, and then you like had the lower back pain, and then that's when you knew. And even like on the right before you were getting married, you wanted it to be a surprise.
Gift. Yes.
I can't even imagine like what that must have felt like. But and I don't want to give away everything that happens in the book, but to start at the beginning with this whole relationship and how it even started, a lot of women might have given up early on because at first you guys didn't have a defined relationship.
No, we were not married. We
even boyfriend and girlfriend early on. It wasn't even that.
Yeah, because I met Willie fresh off a Super Bowl, child. And he was out. He was in there. Listen, honey, he was in those streets, and I was living in Atlanta at the time, and he was in Pittsburgh, and we met 2011 in the club, y'all.
And you guys are still Steelers fans, right?
Yes, they're still Steelers.
Okay.
I am a Jets fan because I became like his girlfriend and going into wife, when he was with the Jets. So I have more Jets wives friends, and I sort of bonded with them. But he has some of his best friends are Steelers, and so I'm very cool. And one of our friends, they're my kid's godparents. So
Okay.
But I consider myself
it's hard to
more
be a
of
Jets
a
fan for people too.
Yeah, it's hard, honey. Look, it's not that many of us. A lot of us out there, but we're all struggling.
It's a tribe of Jets fans. It's not easy out there.
But so back to this. So I met him in Atlanta. He was still in Pittsburgh at the time. I was in Atlanta, and we were in the club, child. We were at Compound, for y'all familiar with Atlanta out there.
I've been to Compound.
Yeah.
Know how to get down.
It's a good time.
I've been to some white parties,
Yes.
all white parties in Compound.
So we were we met, we, started dating for a little bit.
It felt like you initiated it too.
No, not intentionally. Let me tell
girl,
you.
You initiated it. I think intentionally or unintentionally.
No,
God's plan.
Please, girl.
If you know what you like, go get it. Right? Why hold back?
Look, I saw him. I'm sitting here. I turn around. I see this guy with locks. He had dreads, the dreadlocks. And I, had a few to drink. And I turn around and see his hair. So I was like, realized I was about to touch this man's hair. And I said, wait a minute. Well, when I stick my hand out, he pulls it back in and starts flirting, girl, all up in my face, talking about your pretty eyes and all this stuff.
I was in it to win it.
Yeah. So we started talking, realized we were in brother-sister fraternity and sorority, and it went on from there. He was inviting me back to his room that night. I said, no, thank you.
You know what I hate about the story? Because she makes it seem like I was thirsty. And it wasn't that I was thirsty. First of all, I was talking to the bottle girl. She was talking to the DJ.
Oh,
that's what she doesn't.
You let that part out of the book.
That's what I'm talking about. There was more.
What?
There's more to the story. It's always like,
hold on. You was dating a DJ?
No, I was not. We were friends and flirting. So let's put that out there.
And you was talking to the bottle girl.
I had situations.
Okay.
I ain't gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
And so,
mind you, she was waiting on their VIP table next to ours and ours too.
Right. And so by the end of the night, she crawled. She came down the stairs.
No, wait, what?
She came down the stairs. And first of all, I didn't recognize how short she was. And I was like, man, who cut you off at the knees? Where's the rest of you? Because she looked tall while she was sitting in the booth. And when we got outside, so I'm like, man, Willie, hit her with the number 2. Hey, would you like to go for breakfast? We can do it back in my room. And she was just like,
breakfast in my room.
I was like, listen, I'm going to Art Thomas. If you want to meet us over there, you can. He's like, oh, well, I'm at the W, and they have great breakfast. I'm like, I've been to the W before. I've had their breakfast, but it's 3 a.m. and there's nothing open. Like my grandmother used to say, after 12 o'clock, but Waffle House and legs.
Yeah.
Yes, and I didn't want Waffle House and the legs.
Well, say how you really said it though.
Wait a minute. I don't know.
No, we were Angela. She keep it a buck. She know how to get down.
No, because he just kept saying, no, I have a mother and a sister and something. I was like, your mama know your sister.
Was not saying that.
Girl, listen, they don't have nothing to do with my pussy.
Okay.
And so,
period.
And that's what I said. And I said, so let's meet tomorrow. But he was really nice about it. After
I can't believe he
scared me.
I have a mother and a like.
He was like, no.
I was just trying to say I'm not like the rest of these heathens out here. I'm a good
you
wholesome man.
You can have a mother and a sister and be a heathen.
100%. That's what she was saying too.
That's exactly
what she was saying. Yeah.
So I was telling him because he kept saying, no, I just want to do breakfast, and I said, listen, I'm not gonna play with you. It's 3 o'clock. By the time I get to your room, it's gonna be 3:30 a.m. If I know that I'm not fucking,
right.
Let me just say that I don't come to a man's hotel room, even though. You can go to a man's hotel room at 3:30 and
because then
plan
people
on doing
will be
anything.
like, if something happens, it's your fault. Why were you there?
There's a lot
and
that
that's
goes
something
with it.
women have to think
And
about.
that's why he said, in his defense, he was saying like, no. I have
had
a
to,
mother and a
like, chill
sister.
out.
I would
Yeah.
never. And I said, well, listen, that's fine, but your mama and your sister ain't got nothing to do with my.
Yeah,
And so I'm gonna see you. I will see you tomorrow.
and it worked. 'Cause-
And I asked,
Thank you.
listen,
Yeah.
and you say this. I said, if I would have come to your hotel room that night, would we
would've-
be
no.
sitting here 12 years later?
Because you were used to that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what my guys. That's what we did. Scoop and score. So
Scoop
that's-
and score. Did you hear
That's
that?
what we
Scoop
did.
and score.
Yeah. It's an old football
another
term. You know what
book.
I'm talking about. It's a football term.
Scoop and score on and off the field.
And I already knew. Mind you, I'm 5.5 years older than this guy.
You know what's
so
so
I look.
So interesting is also both of your family backgrounds and the role that played in how you dealt with relationships, right? Just even like for you, Willie, thinking about what you went through with your father and your mother and not wanting to hurt a woman the way that your father hurt your mom.
Yeah, I mean, my father was a complex man. He's from Puerto Rico, and he, you know, I'm 42 now, so I have a different perspective than when I was actually going through it with him. You know, a lot of his makeup was how men were built during that era, coming from a home where, you know, my father's mentality: as long as you got a roof over your head, food on the table, and the lights is on, what is there to complain about? But the different side, the other aspect of that is how he was treating my mother. And he had another family outside of my home. And so I would go to bed at night watching. My mother suffered lupus and my mom was a sickly woman. You know, my mother would go to bed at night crying at the edge of the bed, where's her husband? And I would had to step up and console her, you know, and be like, hey, Mom, we're going to be all right. And then he would drag his, you know, tail back in there and not have an excuse, not say anything about it. It's just what it was, and we had to accept it. And I watched my mom not only battle raising young black boys in the projects of the South Bronx, but dealing with an illness like lupus on top of dealing with a man who wasn't committed to the marriage and on top of really feeling like she wasn't enough for him. That's why he's stepping out. And so I grew up in that atmosphere, and it really kind of shaped how I viewed women, how I viewed relationships. I modeled myself after what I saw. And that's how my dad handled his relationship. You know, my job was like, as long as I'm making the money, as long as I'm protecting the house, whatever I do outside these doors is my business, not the home's. And it affected all of us. And so it took a lot of growth, a lot of praying, and a lot of reshaping who I am internally. And I think, you know, so much of what you believe in is who you are. Your beliefs kind of shape you. And I had to change my beliefs on how to handle a woman, how to be a man, and what marriage looked like. I didn't come from a healthy marriage. I came from a marriage that solely survived because it was dependent on the survival of me and my brother instead of love.
Were you ever able to have a conversation with your dad about any? Because I know and even in the book you talk about how he had this other family and you were told to keep like the newest baby a secret. Like, don't tell your mother. Imagine being told by your dad to hide something like that from your mom, but also knowing I don't want to have to tell her that because that's going to hurt her so much.
It was tough, I think, for me so it was a situation where my half sister was in the home, in the other home, and I was forced to take her to the prom. And on our way to the prom, it was her 8th grade prom to be exact. My dad dropped it on me. He was like, "Man, you're gonna walk into this home and your baby brother's gonna be there." And I was like, "Baby brother? I know who my brothers are." And he was like, "Yeah, we have another one." And then during that process, as I'm walking into the home, I can see it as visually as I'm talking about it. You know, it was like a bassinet, dark room, moon shining in, and there was this baby boy sitting there. And my dad is like, "Hey, we're not going to tell your mother about this." And I'm already dealing with all the issues that I have about their relationship, and I was forced to hold that. But it also made me. It didn't just make me like resent my father. It also made me hurt. Like I was hurting. You know what I mean? I'm just like, we clearly see this woman hurting. Like everybody's aware of my mother's sickness and what she's going through and how she's battling every day. Like what else? Like what has she done for her to deserve this? And I grew a deep resentment towards him, but at the same time as my father. So I was tied to him being my father and our loyalty towards each other. But it was very complex, and I dealt with it like I guess any other teenage boy. You kind of just hold it. Because you don't want to upset your dad, but at the same time, you hurt for your mom. So,
And your situation, Aikisha, I mean, your mother, you actually were adopted by your aunt,
Yes.
right? Okay.
So, excuse me, biologically, my mom had 6 children, and we had different fathers. And so my father's family found out about me when I was around 7 years old, between 7 and 8 years old. A neighbor in the apartments that we were living in Mississippi called my grandmother and told my grandmother.
Because, people talk and gossip about things, so it was only a matter of time before it was going to get back.
And it had been like circulating around the community.
Yeah.
My dad's family, they were very well known in Jackson, Mississippi, in the state of Mississippi. My grandfather was an educator of music. So were his sons, my dad and his brothers. And then my aunt, their youngest sister, their only sister, was a physician, first black anesthesiologist in the state of Mississippi, first black woman and first woman. So they were sort of like this accomplished family. Everybody in the community knew them because they were either taught by them or went to school with them. And so my mom, she was from I don't like to say the other side of the tracks, but she was from another side, and met my dad, and she already had, my siblings before me, and they hooked up, and here I come along. But my father was married at the time. And so my mom and my father kept that from his family.
Wow.
But people, like you said, they were talking about it. My grandfather said that he had heard it over the years, but they never didn't have any facts. Well, this neighbor ended up presenting me to them, and they asked my father, was it true? And I remember my grandmother saying that my dad, he was so stunned that they knew, and that he walked out of the door backwards. And she said, because he wouldn't lie to them. He wouldn't say it out of his mouth. And so she said that my grandfather looked at her and said, it's true. And so they called him back and said, listen, if you have a child over there, and he said, well, I only have one. And then he said, well, I guess my dad was, in the defense, his whole world was about to be turned upside down.
Right.
And he said, well, I got to make sure. I think they say she mine. And my grandfather said, well, what does she call you? And he said, she calls me Dad. And he said, well, she's yours.
There you have it.
And she's ours. And we want to meet her. And so I remember the day going to meet my grandparents and my aunt, because my grandparents had just moved in with my aunt. My aunt did not have any children. She was in her late 30s, and she was past being able to have children. So she had moved my grandparents in with her because they were getting older and starting to age. So anyway, my dad took me over to their home, and to me at that time, it was like the biggest house I had ever seen in my life. I lived in the projects, and very modest. My mom did what she had to do to make sure we had, and my sisters did too. But my oldest sister is 17 years older than I am. So, they've been adults my whole life. Anyway, but I came in, and I remember my grandfather crying when he walked in the door to see me. And he looked at me and he said, she's a Holly. Yeah. Because at the time, my last name was Smith. I was Aikisha Late Smith. And so we went through the process, and I started going to spend time with them. And then it was presented to them that they wanted me to, be a part of the family, and my aunt was going to adopt me. And at the time, I had a lot of resentment against my mother.
I was going to ask you, because I'm sure you felt like, well, don't you, that's what you were used to.
How are you getting, going through what I've been through, and as a mother today of two amazing children, I would never, ever, I don't care what the possibility, what it is, I would never give them to anyone.
Right.
Even now, even though I understand, I thank God every day my mom did what she did. I understand her more today than I've ever understood her in my life. But at 8 years old, I felt like she had given me away. I felt abandoned. And I've learned all of these words through therapy. Right. And
she thought she was doing what was best for your livelihood.
Yes, for my life, because over the years, I had 3 sisters who dealt with drug and crack addiction, and one with alcohol. I've lost 2 sisters, and I have 2 who rehabilitated. But I don't know if my mother could foresee all of that. But I know now she felt, I'm going to save one.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I can for one. So anyway, I moved with them, and my life drastically changed. I went from one of the poorest schools in the state of Mississippi to a private Catholic school. I was one of those kind of rags to riches story. I went from us having no car to
you like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was kind of, and my grandmother was a retired nurse, and my grandfather, like I said, was a retired educator, and my mom was is a doctor, and it was just a different life for me. It was.
How did his wife accept you?
You know what? I don't know. I think she accepted the situation. But I remember years later, my grandmother telling me, because my mom used to say, you know, she can go over there, but she's not to stay. Like my biological mom, you know, this side, we were about that life over there. My sisters and mom, like they didn't play. And so.
Jump on your ass.
Oh, today. Anyway, but my grandmother was hesitant too. And she ended up telling me years before she passed, that she told her, she said, listen, they called my dad Bubba. She said, that's Bubba's child. And y'all can deal with that, but he will take care of me the rest of my life, or the rest of his life. She ended up passing before my dad. My dad just turned 91 last weekend.
God bless him.
My dad.
God bless him.
Yeah, and so, and to add insult to her injury, biologically, I'm his only child.
Oh, really? Okay. Wait a second. Explain that.
7.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Y'all got a lot going on.
I know. That's why we wrote a book.
That's why. Listen, but I'm just
why you
thinking
wrote a
about
book.
all of these things that you bring into a union. That's your own backstories, right?
Yeah. And that had to play into where we were, because so my biological mom died when I was 36 years old. I had just moved here. And he and I, like I said, we met in Atlanta. We dated a little while, and then we stopped talking because Willie was for the streets, child. And
for the streets.
I'm just
now.
saying he had a,
I'm a people
and I was ready.
That's all.
I was ready to, be married, because I realized that things that I was going in my 20s and 30s, I was changing the trajectory of what I always wanted, which was ultimately a family, a husband, wife, and some children. So when I got to that point and I met him, it was crazy because I had been praying, like, God, the next man I meet, I wanted to be my husband. The next man I meet, I wanted to be my husband. And I was dating this joker child in Atlanta that I knew I shouldn't be with. I was just like, it was.
Oh, you know.
Yeah, I knew that at that ripe age of 33 at the time,
that wasn't it.
He wasn't it.
Yeah.
And so I ended up meeting
Willie.
Willie.
What are you trying to say here?
What am I trying to say?
Yeah, because you like.
Well, no, because I think my wife tries to seem like I was just some whore.
No.
The day that her mother passed.
Oh, come on, have read the book.
And I thought it was so interesting.
So you really read the book.
Okay.
I thought it was so interesting that you even wrote honestly about this part.
Can I tell you this? I found that out
when you read the book.
When we got our manuscript.
Woo,
and in his
baby.
defense, it was. I'll say
you're
it was
supposed to be
respect.
still a fan. This is why I may have to lean on you for some help out here,
just got
brother.
married. He's minding his business.
Right, he's like, I'm staying out of this one.
Listen, I just like
I need to hear more.
No, really, I found
that's so interesting to me because you didn't have to put that in there.
Well,
I told you. I'm sorry, baby. No, remember when we were getting ready to write this book, we would separate in our house. I would go and write my stuff down and get with our ghostwriter. Well, not ghostwriter because we give her credit, but get with her.
She write front and center on the book, which I love.
Yes.
Okay.
And he would go write his stuff, and then he would meet with her. And I told him. He said, "So we doing this?" Because at first I was hesitant about doing it. Because
we both,
I was worried. I'm like, are we ready to share this? We do. And he was the one who said to me, he said, listen, this is your testimony. Right. This is our testimony. And it's going to help so many people. So when he got ready to do that chapter, he said, you want everything? I said, I want it all.
Okay, Willie.
Well, yeah, I mean.
I want it all. And I did.
Because I feel like if anybody, well, I think a lot of people are just knowing Aikisha and I, our brand is realness, being authentic. And I think we're not our best if we're not ourselves, and so
that was the reason we left the reality
I was going to talk about that in a second.
Yeah,
Good
if we
segue.
were going to do this book, we was going to have to go there, and we have to just take what comes with it. And I mean, I was in Houston, I was partying with the homies, and I had a situation going on in the room with another lady, and I got the call, and my first instinct wasn't to say, oh, let me cover this up for Aikisha. My first instinct was I got to get to Aikisha. Mm-hmm. And that was a different shift in my spirit, because it wasn't that I didn't have strong feelings or I wasn't, I have conviction about it, but I was young. I was very, very career focused. It was having a family, being married, all that just didn't seem real. Wasn't something I was not that I was against, but I just wasn't for. I was, my father was a product of his trauma. I'm a product of my father's trauma. So all that was something I wasn't ready to unpack.
And in a way, getting that out of your system is also, maybe
it's necessary, but I think
maybe it was your journey.
I think that's necessary to whatever that is, to get out there and meet different women, party. But I also think I was solely committed to being Willie. I wasn't trying to change Willie. I wanted to play football. I wanted to make money, and I wanted to meet whatever woman I wanted to meet and do whatever I wanted to do. I didn't want to bear the responsibility of love. I didn't want to bear the responsibility of dealing with a woman and her issues. I didn't want to bear the responsibilities of being a head of a house that I didn't even call for.
Right.
I didn't want that. I wanted to play. My mama was good. My sister was good. I did my job, just like how my father's perception was. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's all I knew. All this other stuff, I'm like, the hell with that. Like that's from when I retired. So when I got the call from Aikisha, my
your mom.
Well, my mom called me. When I got the call, when I got the call
That's
from my mama, she was just like, and one thing, brother, and my wife is witness it now. The conversation a son has with his mother is different than any other conversation he has with his life, because she says very few words, but the words she used hit right to the heart. And what she said was, "Hey, man, Aikisha's mother has passed. What are you gonna do?" That was it. And my initial reaction, I got to get to Aikisha. And so she was like, "Okay, baby."
And you hadn't met her family, right?
No, I just heard it before. Black folks, we talk loud.
And I wanted to say this too. I knew when I got here, because getting back to when we met, so I had just moved to New York in that September of 2013. My mom died February, so I had only been here 5 months when my mother passed. I knew when I came here, like a lot of people's just like, "Oh, well, you moved there because, for Willie," and what he says that too. I knew I wanted to get out of Atlanta, and because I knew my husband was not in Atlanta. I had met Willie, and I had been living in Atlanta. I had been living in Atlanta about 16, 17 years. I went to Clark Atlanta University, been there forever. And so when I decided I wanted to leave, I had lived in L.A., coming to New York. I had never lived in this area, so I decided on New York. Well, he ends up leaving the Steelers, coming to the Jets. So I thought, like, okay, Lord, I said, I want this to be my husband. But I realized we had not been in the same city at the same time dating. But I knew, going back to what he was saying, Willie was coming back to New York. He had not lived in New York since he had gotten drafted to the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2006. When Willie left New York City, he was poor. He didn't have anything. He was going to live his dream. He was coming back to New York City, one of the best, if not the best city in the world, as a millionaire. And I knew that I had to allow him to enjoy and experience this city without the stress or the obligation or the hassle of saying, "Oh, Lord, this girl, is here now." Because that could
cause resentment at some point. And you're a hometown hero. And it's not like there's a whole lot of
Super Bowl champs walking around. You
Bronx,
right?
Puerto Rican. Like, yes.
Yeah.
And
there's not, though. New York is not like the place. New York City.
It's not a breeding ground.
You have the teams here, but
because where do you play out here?
Right.
That's the biggest conversation I have with folks from down south. It's like, where y'all throw the ball around?
When my family come up, they're like, "Where's y'all's field?" Because he went to Hayes, so they like, "Wait a minute, where do y'all play your games?"
Shout out Cardinal Hayes.
Yeah. So I understood that, and we're gonna get back to, like, in that book when you say I asked that. But going on that day, for me, the day I was at his house, with his dog that was becoming our dog. But we were in a crossroad anyway. And I remember thinking, if, like before my mom passed, like when he comes back, I know we about to have a heavy conversation because we don't even know where we stand. I'm over here, right? He's doing his thing. I'm doing my thing. I was like, at the end of the day, after we've tried it, I've had a lot of problems, but getting the man ain't never been one. So
99 problems.
99. But in New York City has 3 or 4 million people right here. So I'll be fine. But that was a conversation I knew we were going to have. But then this happens, and I was honestly, I didn't even tell him about the funeral, how to get there. I just knew I've lost my mother, and if I can get through this, I'm done. That'll be it. But he had a click. It was like we both were having these moments.
Yeah. He was like, "I got to get this girl out the house so I can call," and that's a real thing. And it feels
I had to get out my hotel room. That's what it was.
Yeah. One thing I noticed about both of you is that it seems like whenever something that is tragic happens, it brought you guys closer together.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that happened like time and time again. Things that could have ripped people apart or had you like not aligned is actually what made you guys stronger.
Well, it was the faith too, because before that, I remember when we were leading up to before my mom passed, I told God, if you give him to me, I'll bring him to you. Because I felt like the second time we got together that he was the one, even though my faith would waver some because of things that was happening and what he was doing. But I prayed that. I said, God, if you give him to me, I'll bring him to you. Mm-hmm. And so before games, I would pray with him. Before, I remember he was coming up with contracts, I would pray with him. And I just remember right before you went to Houston and we were kind of getting into it, and he's going to call me before a game. Now we hadn't talked, and he was like, well, I just wanted to know if you could pray with me before this game. Nigga, if you don't call that bitch that you was talking to, then tell her to pray for you. That part. Like that. But then God would come and say, Aikisha. No, I'm telling you, I would call him back and be like, all right, come on, let's pray. Right. You know, because
she'll be praying with attitude. Dear Father, this nigga bless his head so he don't break his leg, even though he ain't shit. And I'm like, okay. I said, keep that. Baby, I got to get the 4 quarters. Let's clean it up.
Because I was just like, God, I would literally go in my closet and I would break down like, I know I'm not Job. You keep bringing this man to me, but he's clearly not ready for what I'm ready for. But that's when you know God has a plan, and it's bigger than anything that we could ever see, imagine, create, or whatever.
And I wasn't not that I didn't believe in God, but I wasn't immersed or entrenched into the word or faith like how I am. Keisha has definitely brought God into my life. I knew as we started to pivot, I started to get serious about us and what we wanted to do. I had to do a self-audit, man. I had to do a self-audit about where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do, because I think for a lot of guys in my position, being older, you're in the back half of your career, it may seem like this is the right thing to do, get married and whatever. But I really asked God, not for this to be the right thing to do, but what's right for me? You know, God, what's right for me to do right now? And I told Keisha that I would go. So we practice on Fridays. We're usually out the building by 2 or 3. It's kind of a short day for a lot of ball players. I would literally go from the locker room and go to a church near my house and sit at a pew and just pray. I would pray my ass off, like if I was playing a game. I said, God, because I was at a crossroads. I knew I loved this girl. I loved my career. I saw my career closing because I was getting injured, and I knew I just didn't have enough in the tank to kind of get over some of the things I was dealing with. I had a mother who was sick. It was just a lot coming at me a million miles an hour. And I knew one thing about I still love about Keisha, she is the type of person who walks around with a mirror. She will show you who you are. Mm-hmm. And I knew I needed that in my life. I couldn't live without that aspect of her in my life. And because our foundation of our relationship wasn't sexual, it was friendship. Right. She genuinely cared for me when I wasn't my best for her. She genuinely cared and prayed for me when I wasn't there for her at times. And I was obviously with her mother, but there was times when I was like, man, I need a friend. Yeah. I just need somebody to talk to, man. And I can call her, even though she'd be like, yeah. And I'm like,
I'm still trying to answer.
So she never.
You ain't gonna be playing with me.
Yeah. No. And I went through back, and this young Steve can tell you, I went through back-to-back IRs when the Steelers were at its prime, and I was considered the leader of my room. Right. And I was at my lowest, she was there, and so. I couldn't live without my friend. I couldn't, because she wasn't worried about the money and everything that came along with being with me. She was worried about me as a human being. And I think that's why this book and our faith and the genesis of who we are doesn't start with, we met at the Hilton or we met at the Ritz or whatever. We met with a conversation between two people who kept it real from the jump.
It does feel like it was fate that brought you guys together that night at Compound.
Yeah. It was, because I was not planning on going that night. I was mad at the dude I was with.
But now the fertility aspect of this, right? So once you knew this was your man, because sometimes also I think people also think about, is he going to be a good father? Yes. A lot of times we think of that first before we even think about, is this going to be a good...
all I had was a dog.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, dog.
I just had a dog.
But like he said, seeing past all of the exterior of who everybody else knew as like the Bronx Bully and Willie Colon, being around him and watching his work ethic, how he cared for his mother, how he was with his family, even with his friends. I mean, he had guys living with them and taking care of them and doing things for people that I mean, it was something that I just saw past all of that I knew he would be a good father because he was, he was good to me.
Right.
And I respected that about him, and I felt like God brought us back together for a reason, and that was the reason.
So now this, when I tell you I was reading this and I was like, wow, this is so powerful. And thank you for sharing this because this had not been an easy journey for you. You talk about all the different things that you tried because you really wanted to have a baby, both of you. I got a lot of your perspective because this is your body going through so much. I mean, you literally were doing acupuncture.
I was doing herbs.
Everything.
I was
You
doing
said at
IVF.
one point you had some fan blowing up in your cooch.
Girl,
and
I had this oxygen. We went to this place. They oxygenate your insides or something.
We did it all.
I started laughing
everything.
when I think everything. We spent so much money. He spent. I had already gone through because we weren't married at the time we started, and that was another thing. Like telling this man, "Hey, I want to have a baby, and I want you to be the father of it." And he's like,
cool.
"Okay, yeah." I'm like, all right. That day was crazy
All right,
too.
I'm watching the game.
Yes, but and then I dealt with all these insecurities of I'm older than he is. He could have had a baby with anybody. All these, young tenders out here, and now you're having to pay for me to have a baby for you. So I was dealing with, what if I can't do this? Is he going to leave me? We've gone through all of these things, and my old ass can't get it done.
Right.
And I've never.
I think society also, because so many times when you're with somebody, when are you guys going to have
Yes.
a kid?
And mind you, we're in
And you're
football
trying.
world. No, but we're in the football
Yeah.
world where ladies, we plan our pregnancies around the season. So when they're playing, everybody's pregnant. So I'm at every baby shower from between the Jets and Giants. And then in the spring is when you want to have the baby because they're going to be there.
That's crazy. I did not know you had to try to plan.
Because you want your husband there because they'll come in, let the baby pop out, and he's going back to the field.
Because it's also hard to plan that. I mean, you can try with the ovulating
there
kids.
you go.
Yeah.
It's hard to plan it because it's so hard to actually get pregnant. And people don't understand that.
Yeah.
There's only one time a month that you can get pregnant. And so I was doing all the things, and then I started going like, well, maybe I'm not getting pregnant because we're not married, and maybe it's because of this. My level of anxiety began to rise, and he told me later, I found out in the book that his brother had even asked him like, so what are you going to do if Keisha can't have babies?
And you said you had gone through issues with other women being pregnant and abortions and all of those
things. And I feel like
things.
this is the get back. I think
Wow.
for me, 100%. There was when we can, Angela, you don't understand, man. For most, listen, you've been around us athletes for a long time. We can be extremely reckless and not understand the responsibility we have to one day present ourselves in a healthy manner to your wife. When I said, okay, I'm having a baby with this woman, she will be the leader, right next to me and leading my home. We did everything to try to have this baby. We sat in front of multiple doctors, and they were like, "No, this ain't happening for y'all." Like, even like
I
straight
didn't have
up.
the follicles. My ovarian reserve was deteriorating. I just was not producing, which is crazy. Maybe now that's why I'm in menopause. But my body, it just was not doing.
And so everything
what it was supposed to do.
so everything she was going through, I felt like God was punishing me for my lack of responsibility, the decisions I made, some of the abortions I had. I felt like God was like, this is your punishment. And I had to tell her that. Like I was like, babe, I think this is because of me.
Wow.
And we had to bring that to the altar. And I was like, man, I'm sorry for the young wild Willie that I was so proud of. And it came to the point because we were trying so hard to have a child, I was ashamed of him. Right. And so I had to kind of fight through all that. And I had to fight through all the heartbreaks and the bad relationships. And I was it was like all those skeletons that I had packed away were now sitting around in my living room like, no, we ain't going no way, Jack. Like, we here. And I had to get through that. And I think, it shows you when I know we talk about it in the book, like we were trying so hard. Like I was in training camp. Right. And my wife drove up to Cortland. This is my time with the Jets.
We got the smiley face.
Yeah.
I got that smiley
and
face.
she's like, I'm coming up there and I got a hotel room and we need to do this right now. And I'm like, I got an ice pack here, my back's hurt. And
had to sneak out because they cannot leave.
Yeah, I couldn't leave the training camp. So I had to go to one of my security guards. Like, listen, my wife is ovulating, and so I got to go.
We weren't even married.
We weren't even married.
It was crazy. Your girlfriend.
Yeah, so I was like, I gotta go do what I gotta do, and I'll be right back. Yeah. And he was just like, well, Willie, if you, I was like, listen, you just get out the way.
Yeah,
and
you don't want to deal with her.
Okay? And Angela, so I pull up to the hotel. The room opens up. She's laying there, legs wide open in the air.
Come on, let's go.
And I'm like, I don't know one dude that's horny after practice. I was just wanting a cold tub and a drink, and I'm unwrapping myself, trying to get myself together. And she's like, come on, we're on the clock. And I'm just like, time. Right.
Yes. That's a lot
and I had to drive back home.
Yeah, right. So
that's a lot of pressure to perform.
No, it was. Listen, we went through some things.
We went through it, man. But we did it together, and we did it with our faith, and we did it with one goal in mind. We're gonna have this child.
Did you at any point think that maybe it wouldn't happen, and would you have been okay? You would have been okay though.
What? Yeah, because I would have been okay because I knew genuinely in my heart, and the praying I was doing in that church by myself with nobody around, with no influence. My love for her kept showing up. Mm-hmm. How much I loved her and what she meant to me, outside of the sexual aspect, kept showing up.
But his faith at that time was stronger than mine. He would have to pick me up, because I was thinking, what is going to happen if this does not? And he kept saying, it's going to happen. Yeah. It's going to happen. I'm telling you, and mind you, I had seen my son. God had shown me my son in a dream.
Son,
yes, my light
wanted
skin
a brown skin baby.
I wanted a brown skin baby with my color.
You had a dream this little light baby.
Yes,
and I saw
Boris
Cujo.
And as you see, that's my light skin.
Yeah.
They're so cute.
Thank you.
Not one, but two, by the way.
Yes.
And what I love is that there is a happy ending. So I knew that was coming. Thank goodness. So while I'm reading it, every single time I'm like, this is when it worked.
Well, I'll say this quickly, and I know you're gonna go, babe. For me, when she brought faith into my life and I started getting into the word and really leaning on God, one of the things, you can't have faith and worry. You can't have faith and look backwards. You can't have faith and then say, okay, this is what I want, but if this don't work out, you got to be all in. So that was the foundation of what we were building. I was like, babe, yeah, it's not good. And then also, it also runs parallel to what I was going through in my career. There's so many times with being injured and not working, the next guy's getting drafted. All I kept saying was like, see it through, Willie. You're gonna. And that's
fine. But I'm telling him about that, but I couldn't tell myself. I had got to the point where it was just, I was so tired and I was drained. I was exhausted.
Physically, that's so draining.
Yes, and putting all of these. We were going to put pictures in the book. Then I was just like, no, I have the bruises, everywhere. I started saying, okay, God, so the baby that I saw, was that a donor egg? Because one of the doctors sat before us and she said that. She said, only way you're going to be able to have a baby is if you use a donor, because you do not have, you're not producing the eggs.
People tell you once you get older and you're not producing the eggs like that, that you have, the only way, certain places won't do IVF. They'll only
and that's what was happening. Yeah. My levels were, one of the places we were at, if they were over 22 or they wouldn't do them, and then one was a 25. One time we tested, my level was a 56. And so that's why I love when you see me talk about Dr. Stephanie Thompson in the book, because I met her through another friend, and she was just like, listen, we only need one.
Yeah.
And she was willing to work
with me. And doctor.
She looked like me, and in the sense of, it was another black woman sitting here telling me, I'm going to keep trying as long as you want to keep trying.
I love that. And and you needed somebody to sit, be empathetic, understand, not tell you what you couldn't do.
Yep. That's exactly what I needed. And even though I tried with her and it was still unsuccessful, but I think the comfort, I told him when we walked out of her office, I said, listen, if Dr. Stephanie says that it's not possible, I'll believe her, and then I'll look into other options. But God had other plans, and I conceived naturally after that.
Two times
with my son.
Back to back.
And we
had Willie.
Yeah, 2 times.
There's a lot of judgment too when women have children older. Mm-hmm. And
what's the judgment?
And they'll be like, "Oh, why would you do that?"
Well, if you would have had him earlier, you wouldn't be going through.
I do want to say a lot of times people don't understand the journey, because sometimes women do want to have kids earlier, and it's just fertility is not an easy.
But when I think about in my 20s, I was not fit to be anybody's mama in my 20s. Now, I guess if it had
nobody.
No,
Yeah,
and then when I was in my 20s, child, he was a teenager, so it clearly it wouldn't have been
please don't.
right. So no,
No, but there is. I've seen people be like, "Oh, your kid's gonna be X, Y, and Z." Oh, that's
which is dumb, right?
Yeah.
Because the goal is to bring a child into this world with every option. Not a smooth path, but you want to be prepared for that child, not only from your personal standpoint, financially, spiritually, just so many aspects you can have to prepare for a child. I think for us, I wanted a child. I wanted to have it with Aikisha. I didn't know when. Like I said, I was so committed to my career. I just knew I wanted it. I just didn't want it right. I didn't want it in that window.
And I didn't have the time, though, because I was older than he was. So I knew when I presented to him that I wanted to have kids, I had to be prepared that if he said, that's not what I want to do, I want to wait another 4 or 5. Because remember, he was only 31. I was 36. I was about to turn 37.
right.
So I didn't have 5 years to give him.
And when they do names like, "Oh, this is a geriatric pregnancy,"
Oh, girl.
yeah.
When I was going to get all of my treatment, I looked on that little wristband and it had I said, geriatric?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Oh, and then
this old thing up in here trying to pop one out of there.
And like once I had the pregnancy, like I said, the PTSD after that, even when I found out I was pregnant with my son, there wasn't an excitement in the beginning because, mind you, I had 7 miscarriages before that.
Right.
So I was so worried each time I went to a doctor's visit. I remember when we were about to announce my pregnancy, I had called Dr. Stephanie. I said, I'm not going to do it today because I was having this big party. We do a thing called Cologne Classic every year. It's like our little holiday thing. And so I wanted to announce there. And I was like, I'm not going to do it. She said, Aikisha, it's fine. So then she called my high-risk specialist and had her to bring me in so we could see everything, heartbeat, everything, because I got so nervous. And every time we went to the doctor's office, I was afraid something was going to happen. And even now, even today,
That's why the kids are in the bed.
I keep looking at your clock. I keep looking at that clock.
Well, I also want
because I want to get across the bridge.
I also want to talk about.
No, I'm serious.
I feel you.
It's
No.
that thing. It's still with you. So.
Well, I just want to briefly talk about. She talks about her being nervous going to the doctor's office. For me, having to give my sample.
Oh, that was when we were doing IVF.
Another taxing situation because for every man out there that has to give up their seed, I mean, the process is not a friendly one because you have to now go into a room that has a plastic couch.
Right, a magazine.
There's
maybe.
a couple magazines. There's a
Well,
TV.
they have some videos now.
And they
They can use your phone.
And what's worse about it, so you got to get yourself up and ready to go. And then
One time they let me come in there with them.
They did? Okay, that's nice.
yeah, it really wasn't.
Because it's in this little room. I'm over there trying to roll my butt off.
Yeah, she trying to play with herself. I'm like, you know what I mean?
He's like, I got to go to practice.
But I was going to say this. And then when you get into the room, you're looking at a video or an option the last guy had before you.
Oh.
So you're sitting there like, oh no, I don't do that.
And he's trying to find Ebony and whatever the heck. Ebony and Latin.
Yeah, I'm looking for the Brazilian and all this other stuff. And I got Snow White and so it's wild.
And the 7
and all that.
Yes. Now that's a porn.
Right, but it gets aggressive. It's a lot.
It is so crazy.
But I do say this: we met a lot of couples in there.
Not in that room. But
No, but
I'm kidding.
But I tell you this: when you're in the waiting room, we
is.
have met other couples who have been there for a long time. We met this
Yes.
one Asian couple who were dressed to the nines. I mean, they had it. Like you could tell they had it. And the one thing they didn't have was a child. They had been there for 5 or 6 years in the same clinic, pounding the drum. They weren't living in New York. They were flying in from wherever they came from. And so I got to know the gentleman. I got to know him because he was ahead of me, so we kind of stand in the same line. Like, hey, you up, Jim?
Hurry up.
Right? Like, don't take too long,
go.
right? I should throw those tissues away. So you going through all that, and when you see other people go through it, and that's one thing, Aikisha, one of our reasons for writing this book was we left a lot of couples in the fight in that room who were still trying, still fighting like us. We were the fortunate ones, by God's grace and mercy, to come out of it on the other side. But we know for a fact there were some couples in there who were just
And like he said, they had it, but there were couples in there who were spending their last.
Trying to decide, am I going to pay for this or are we going to try
And I'm like,
again?
wait a minute, I think of what we pay now with our children. Like, they still have to live and eat after this. And they were people who, they were like, this is their last time, their last.
You see people like literally losing their house trying to have
it was
one child.
It was heartbreaking.
It was hard, man.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Well, I do appreciate y'all. And it's so interesting that you guys did Bell Collective. And like you said earlier, the way you quit was
I let her tell that side. I said my piece.
No.
That went so viral.
Well, no, I only did it that way because those heifers tried to get at the end of the last season and do a scene saying that they were about to kick me off the show.
You're like, I got my renewal contract. Thank you very much.
Yeah, let me let y'all know. And you don't have the power to kick me anywhere. So I did it that way because I knew if I would not have publicly announced or a way that people could see actually what happened, they would have spent that story in a kind of way and said that they were the reason that I wasn't on the show. But a part of leaving was because of, what you read, everything that we've gone through to build our brand and our family. It wasn't worth it to be fighting and
reality
doing that.
TV, baby.
Yeah, it just wasn't worth it on that show. And when I went into the show,
and I'm gonna let you go, babe. But we also don't play the victim. We understood what we signed up for, but
exactly.
we had a goal and we had a brand we were trying to uphold, and we felt like we strayed away from there as a couple and as a family.
Yes.
So we represent a lot more, not only for our family but for our community. And there's a stand that we're not gonna fall in.
And sometimes when you're gone, that's when people realize what you really did bring.
Talk about it.
and tell it.
Because I saw a lot of people that missed you guys being on there and the level of.
Well, it went away from what I thought the purpose of the show was, and it was highlighting these women, Black women in Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, business professional women. Like, listen, I don't mind the drama. I understand reality TV. You can have a little drama here and there. You can come for me all day. I have no problem with that. But when you come for him,
right. That's the issue.
That's a problem.
You was ready to throw down, baby.
That was the maddest I ever seen my wife in my life.
Wow.
I did ask when we got home after everything kind of calmed down in the house. Her folks is ready to mount up and get going, and I'm like, hey now, chill out. But I told her, I was like, baby, I ain't never seen you that mad. She was like, because I don't play about you or mine. And I said, amen.
No, and you're not going to, it was disrespectful. We knew part of the storyline was Willie's from New York. He's a fish out of water down there. Everybody knows the storyline.
Yeah.
When you realize that there was real malice and envy and jealousy, they really did not like him. And it was no. We're not. My husband's on national television every day. I'm not about to lose the job that really pays our bills down here dealing with y'all.
And that's another thing that you have to think about professionally.
Yes.
And I love the transition that you were able to make in your career also as being a commentator. That's huge because a lot of times people do have to think about what's going to happen. That you know that there's a window of time, and so what's next? And I know that Aikisha was a large part of you knowing that you should even be pushed in that direction.
Yeah, I did not know where to go when I retired. Aikisha, when I was doing a lot of stuff here regionally for SNY TV and doing different spots on ESPN, she was like, "Hey man, I know you don't know what to do, but if you give this an honest shot, and let yourself kind of go, I think you can be great at this. I think you could be really good." But I was an athlete. I was a ball player. I just wanted to play ball.
This mentality: if your mind is what happens off the field, then you're not focused on the field.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And I kept trying to say, I knew physically his body was breaking down, but he wasn't ready to see that.
And that was
yet.
what you knew your whole.
That's all he's known.
I cared about.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to as women, we have to push them in a direction without them knowing we're pushing.
Yeah.
And you have to, and so that's what I began to do is kind of show him how great he was at it. And so the NFL offers a broadcasting boot camp for current and former players. And so I saw that and I went in and I started.
Damn sure did.
I was doing the application.
Like, look at him.
Games.
Listen, you got accepted. You are accepted here. And you're going to be in Mount Laurel this week.
Because, even thinking about the mentality of now you go from being celebrated, everybody knows you, but then there's injuries. Then it's like, how much longer can we do this? And I know you even went through some things just to make sure that you could continue playing as long as you did. But people have to also think about, well, now I'm going to be at home more. And
girl, and let me tell you, I'm used to having my home life and doing my thing.
It's an adjustment for everyone.
And he's like, it's a package at the door. What? Go find you something to do. Like, what? He's like, because now he's like all in my business.
This is the third package today.
Yes, I'm like,
Man, I used to be able to just get back on here.
no. And so, the thing was, my degree is in mass media arts, radio, TV, film. And so I have a producer's mind. And I've watched him. One day we were coming out of one of the games and he was interviewing with someone. And I'm listening to him talk and I said, okay.
Yeah.
Not that I thought he was a dumb jock. He has a degree. Went to Hofstra.
Part of what you liked about him.
But yes, it was just something in the way he was interviewing, and he was charismatic, and he was still informative, and he was getting out what had happened in a creative way that caught my attention. Because normally I'm like talking to everybody else and ignoring whatever he's doing, and I just said, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And so from that, it's just I knew that would be a great segue for him because one, it keeps him in the sport.
Yep.
And
he has that knowledge, that insider knowledge that.
Well, I think first of all, I was fortunate enough when I was interviewing with Fox right off when I got off the field, and I saw Sean Merriman, who I consider a friend, and I played against Sean. And Sean had a lot going on, man. He was in movies, he was on Girlfriends, he was like doing different spots, and he was just like, man, as much as I got on, I remember he was like, as much as I have got going on, I still miss ball. He's like, because he was a football player. And football players know football players. Like, I hate to say this, I know I get scrutiny. You know, when you love something with that amount of passion and grit in your heart, you know, you're okay with leaving it all right on the field and possibly never leaving the field because you're living your passion and your dream, right? And I felt like that. Like, whatever happened to me on the field, I was comfortable with because God had answered my prayers, right? I was the happiest I ever been. Leaving Pittsburgh on the south side with the leaves falling, with the Steele logo on my chest. There was so much pride. I felt like I was serving a bigger purpose. I was birthed into an organization that believed in family and pride and history. So I was like, man, I really was okay, you know, wearing the black and gold for the rest of my life and whatever that it came with it. So when that's taken from you, there's a lot of ball players right now, like Aikisha and I, you know. God rest my brother in arms, Nick Mango, who just passed from the New York Jets. You know, we were together at a service, but you have guys who, when they leave the field, man, there's a legit grieving process you go through because your whole identity is wrapped around football, the team you played for, the community you serve, and how you perceived from the outside. So the mental aspect of it. Like I said, I had a lot of opportunities, but I was grieving with football. I was grieving with, you know, and I lost my mom and my aunt and my uncle a couple years later. So the mental aspect was a lot, man. But I was fortunate, not just because I had my faith, but I had my wife. And I think what we're doing with this book and all these interviews, we're trying to talk about our faith and how even when doors were closed, God was still paving the way, opening doors for us. So.
I'm about to go home and pray tonight.
Yeah, man, get it out.
Baby, listen.
You get it out, it'll come back to you.
Right now.
No.
And you also are the lifestyle columnist for Brown Style magazine. So congratulations on that. I know
so
you're like
much.
A month in.
Yes, so my second one will be coming out next week.
Okay. I saw you talking about menopause, and that's how we opened it up before the conversation today.
Yes.
But I do want to say, such a powerful book. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much
I know
for
you're a
having
busy
us.
woman. You know.
Wait, listen, this was amazing for me to read, though. And like you said, I do think it's important for people because, you know, fertility, listen, like you said, there's going to be people who, you know, on the other side of it, ended up having to do something different. You know, you talked about the potential donor egg that you did not have to do. I know people who have had to do that.
Yes.
There's people who have been trying, like you said, you know, spending their life savings on trying to have kids. And, you know, I just think it's important for people to not pass judgment when you don't know what someone's going through.
That's right.
You know, with that. So thank you so much for sharing.
Not to cut you off, it is a love story.
Yeah.
Yes.
That it is.
It is a love story. And I think
it is.
It's based in faith, but I think for a lot of couples.
And God is love. So
you're right. And I think for a lot of couples who are like, you know, I'm tired of his, she's tired of mine. We said, well, we love each other. We're going to figure it out. We're going to let God lead the way. And that's what we did. So
That's why they didn't like y'all on reality TV.
Man,
that's take it up with God.
Right.
Take it up with God.
Call God.
No. You know what? The last thing I did want to say this, too. It's interesting because you guys went through so much, right, to have your children. Do you feel like it was always a process that now you're able to, like, finally not be having to, you know, have sex at a certain time or do the acupuncture or do this.
No, I don't do the acupuncture anymore, but I'm having to do things for this menopause. We'll come back and talk about that later, child.
But I was just thinking about the toll that it takes, like timing-wise, because that's like a full-time responsibility.
Girl, now when you have kids, though, we still have to schedule it timing. I have to think, like, let me get to my husband. Let me pay him some attention.
We're day lovers. We have our hours from 12 to 2 while the kids are in school. If we don't get it in, it ain't happening, and that's just the way it is. Because when the kids get home, we gotta feed them, we gotta love them, we gotta do homework, we gotta get ready for the next day. She tired, I gotta get up. Yeah, so from 12 to 2, and when our phones, we don't pick up our phones, you know Willie and Aikisha fucking. That's what we 12 to 2, that's what we doing.
All right, let them know.
Right, those are our hours, so stay away from them hours. We cannot serve you, we are serving each other.
Well, thank you so much, Faith and Fertility. Make sure y'all pick it up. I loved hearing your story.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for the opportunity.